Tipp today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tipp Today, 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number. It won't cost you if you'd like to make a call to us. And as usual, Leanne is producing. Coming up on the show this morning, we'll be speaking to Johnny Luby in just a few moments' time. We'll talk about ongoing trade union disputes and disputes of the past as well. We will looking back on that. Helen Walsh will be with us to delve into the 1926 census. Nenagh-based businessman Kevin McSherry will be talking, taking issue indeed with the economist Professor John Fitzgerald, who spoke to Donald a few days ago. Singer Emma Longford will be with us live in studio this morning for a chat, and our Friday panel will unpack the big talking points of the week. So all of that and much, much more indeed. We have a couple of competitions for you today. The first one, Sarcoma Cancer Ireland and Pieta have given us 2 tickets to give away for a fundraising concert. We heard about this on the programme yesterday, featuring the great Michael English. It's taking place on Bank Holiday Monday, that's May 4th, in the Church of St. Mary of the Rosary in Nenagh. Now, the charities rely very heavily on public support, so they would love you to go along and attend what is going to be a great musical evening indeed. So we're giving away tickets right now, and if you want to pick those up, all you have to do is text or WhatsApp Michael English followed by your name and your details to 083 311 3311, and we'll have that draw in just a little while. Let's have a look at the front of some of your newspapers this morning. The Irish Daily Mail, and the lead story on the Mail today by Craig Hughes. Fianna Fáil is struggling to find people willing to canvass for the upcoming by-election in Galway, with the party's leadership in denial over the ill feeling among its grassroots. Now, this is all according to the Daily Mail. They're revealing that John Connolly, the party's sitting TD in Galway West, this week told the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, that he sent out 30 emails looking for canvassers last week, and just 4 people replied, 2 of whom were party employees. Let's have a look at the Irish Examiner. The lead story on the Examiner today. Gardaí have been criticised after seizing the counselling notes from a therapist's home of a woman who had reported that she had been sexually assaulted. Also on the Examiner today, I now know I was way too trusting. I feel after this that I will not be able to trust anyone as much. I should not have to worry about things like this at 90 years of age. Now, these are the words of a 90-year-old man who was one of 3 elderly people targeted by a 42-year-old Cork man who has been jailed for 11 months. The Irish Independent is dominated by a photograph of Adele King, better known, of course, as Twink. A very glamorous photograph of her as well, but she's in a new battle to save her €1.5 million Dublin home from a bank that claims that she failed to maintain monthly repayments on her mortgage. Also on the Indo today, their big story is that Dublin City Council, if you want to hear about waste, this is going to annoy the hell out of you. Dublin City Council, they've set aside more than €10 million to refurbish its Woodquay HQ, despite planning to move out of those buildings in 2029, but they're going to spend 10 million on it in the meantime. What do you think of that? That's those buildings, they're very controversial back in the 70s when they were built. They looked like kind of bunkers more than anything else there, just overlooking the River Liffey. The Irish Times, the lead story on the Times today, the number of American troops travelling to Ireland has increased by almost 80% during U.S. attacks on Iran, figures obtained by the Irish Times show. And also on the Times today, a district court judge's approach in refusing to convict more than 30 drivers for alleged speeding on the County Kildare road was inappropriate on a number of levels, a High Court judge has said. And also on the Times today, the number of people working past the age of 65 has increased by almost a third in the past 3 years, according to the CSO. So that's a look at what's making headlines on some of your newspapers today. If you would like to comment on any of those headlines, again, you can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311, and you can email Tipp today at tippfm.com. It's time for Johnny Luby. Morning, Johnny.
Good morning, Fran, and good morning to the listeners. You're welcome back.
Nice to be back.
You had a good replacement in Powell. Or Donald, which one?
It was Donald.
I was talking last Friday.
You were talking to Donald, and he did a fantastic job, yeah.
That's right, yeah, and of course he was in the hot seat with the protests and everything else, so he managed it all well.
Sure, look, did a great job, and sure, we wouldn't expect any less from him. You're going to talk to us, first of all, about Tipperary's loss to Cork in the championship, Johnny?
That's right, Jeff, and with 45,000 people in Tullis, a huge crowd, and thanks to the Gardaí, the way that they got them in and out fairly rapid, and that it was, I suppose Tipperary didn't hit the ground running. That was the only fault that they would see themselves. Cork were up for the game. They had a league final, fair enough. Tipperary, things just didn't fall their way. The first touch, of which another man had said to me there in maybe a good few years ago, that Tipperary's first touch is better than any of the counties playing hurling. Well, the first touch on Sunday, that just wasn't right for them for whatever reason. And reading the papers then on Monday, whether it was the Examiner or the Times or the Independent or the Star and Mirror, all them papers, it wasn't a championship day. There was no great atmosphere there, and so Tipperary have to try and get it right then for the next day. But as regards last Sunday, it was just disappointing. And to say that Cork only beat them at the very end by 4 points, I thought it was a fair enough result on the day, considering that Cork were leading 8 or 9 points at one stage, and that it was just they looked to be leg weary. So I'd say that they've done very, very little this week just to get them fresh, and that would be the important thing. With 45,000, there many people have said to me from even outside of the county that Tullis should be the Semple Stadium, FBD Semple Stadium should be the mecca of all hurling followers. They should turn it into a Thomond Park type of venue, because they can cater for the crowds. There's plenty of roads in and out of Tullis, whereas Cork and Limerick, the venues are superb, but it can be hard to get to it, especially Cork.
And what's the story, Johnny? It needs huge investment, I guess, does it?
Yeah, well, you see, I suppose each county board then is going to fight for their own piece of the action, which is fair enough. But they could certainly, I would think, down the road do deals, that the Limerick County Board, if they're playing Cork and Tullis, that they both would get their cut out of it, along with Tipperary for hosting the venue. Yeah. Was disappointing last Sunday that Hawkeye, it took maybe a full minute and a half. Seemingly the yoke that computerization, and that is slow after YouTube, what do you call them bloody yokes there, that they're slow to log in to see was it kneel or toss a ball went over the bar. Right. And that they wasted a minute and a half last Sunday, which was unusual inside in the middle of a Munster hurling championship game.
Okay, so that held up proceedings, I guess. Better look for the minor hurling, I suppose, Johnny.
Yeah, the Miners had a great win. They won by 5 or 6 points against Cork. Mr. Woodlock is in charge of them with his charges, and it was a brilliant victory for them. Of course, when you're coming from the county, we'll say, with 3 or 4 Harty Cups in a row, you're going to have many youngsters playing at the highest calibre. And for ourselves in Golden, the likes of young Finn there, went to school in Golden, and he had a big game for us at centre-back. So it is a key position, and he's a fine build of a young fella. So hopefully when he fills out down the line, he could be Tipperary's regular centre back. But all the rest of the lads perform brilliantly as well. They're tipping along nicely, and they look to be the form team. I suppose our under-20s listening to Tipp FM the other night was just disappointing, Fran, in so far as that we were 6 points ahead into the last minute of the game and then lost by a point. that was just disappointing with the way things can happen, but they're in the semi-final anyway. They'll have to come through the hard route, because if they had won, they'd have been in the Munster final, so they have an extra game, and hopefully things will straighten out. So the best of luck to Brendan Cummins and his charges as well in that. Just to say that the match on Sunday, for anything, to the amazing thing between Tipperary and Waterford, which goes on in Welsh Park in Waterford, the disappointing thing is that it's not on RTE, it's on GAA Go. They have a football match on instead, and I have no problem with the football at all. But the football is in Connacht, I think it is Mayo and Roscommon, which could be quite a good game. But at the end of the day, Tipperary are the All-Ireland champions. The game against Waterford as such is a knockout game. Yeah. Whereas if you win the football in the provinces, as I was saying last weekend to Donald, you don't go any further in hurling. If you win a Munster championship, you're going to an All-Ireland semi-final automatically, the same as if you win in Leinster. So there is huge pride attached to that. But in the football, you can win the Connacht, Munster, Leinster, Ulster, but they have a new draw then for the All-Ireland, so it has no bearing whatsoever on the championship, whereas this match of Sunday between Tipp and Waterford has a huge bearing. And just to say to everybody, as it is on GA Go, I don't know how to get that, but somebody will tell you along the way how to get it, that go early, because a lot of Tipperary people will be going the one route through Carrick-on-Shore and that's so just to go early and mind themselves on the road.
There are senior footballers, they're out as well, are they?
That's right, Jeff, and they're out tomorrow against Cork. They did beat Cork there a few years ago now, it's both in the Munster Championship final, which looked to be against the odds. They've trained fairly hard. Tipperary are ranked number 28 out of 31 or 2 counties that play the football. Cork are ranked number 9 according to the surveys and all of that. Hopefully Tipperary will put in a good performance. That's what the manager Neil Fitzgerald would like to see, is a good performance, and hopefully go well then in the other competitions. So that's the footballers. Our Camogie friend did a marvellous win on Sunday last against Cork prior to the Tipp Cork game in the hurling. They performed brilliantly, and well done to them and James Heffernan and all the lads who were involved with the Camogie. On Sunday next they play Limerick. It's in Páirc Uí Chaoimh in Cork. It's prior to the Cork-Limerick game, which is a huge game. Limerick received a shock notice there that Aaron Gillane isn't available on Sunday. He pulled a hamstring or pulled a muscle, and he is one of the best forwards in the game at the moment, so he would be a huge loss to them. But there will be a huge atmosphere down there in Super Value Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Tipperary under 16s, they were beaten by 4 points in the All-Ireland semi-final against Galway, seemingly in a tremendous game, and well done to them. It augurs well for the future.
Very good.
I suppose that's about it on the GA.
There was a big Greyhound night last Saturday night, wasn't there?
That's right, yeah, Fran, inside in Limerick, sponsored by Noreen McManus in honour of her dad and mum, Con and Annie Kirby. They were great Greyhound people. It was €80,000, the richest juvenile race in the world. It was on television. It looked a marvellous night, and Michael Donovan in Tipperary Town with his son Mark, they trained the Greyhound that won the final. It was for English connections. He was
well done.
He was Irish bred and all that thing, sold out of Cork Stadium, and he came back to win that in a marvellous final, and well done. Congratulations to them. More than likely probably one of the favourites for the English derby.
Well done to Mike and the family there. It's great. To rugby then, Johnny.
Yes, and to rugby then, a big weekend last weekend locally. Clonmel had a huge win against Dolphin, and it was a marvellous victory for them. A massive crowd in Clonmel, and they'll be there tomorrow for the final of the league game against Bective Rangers. Bective were one of the big clubs a good few years ago in Dublin. They used to supply many players to the Irish international team. That game is on in Clonmel tomorrow at 2:30. Again, go early there. There'll be a tremendous atmosphere, and the very best of luck to Clonmel. They're one of our own, and we'd like to see them going up a division for next season, please God. Kilfeacle play Nenagh, Fran, in the Junior Cup semi-final. They're having a wonderful season, winning the league and the Gary Owen Cup. They're in the final of the Munster Challenge Cup, and on Sunday next on the hill in Kilfeacle they take on the might of Nenagh. Nenagh are a senior club. I suppose they could have 7 or 8 players. The amazing thing about it is that you can play 6 or 7 games in senior club rugby and still come back and play junior cup rugby. I don't know how that rule came in, but I know one thing, that if you played 10 seconds with Anna Carty in senior hurling in the club, you cannot come back to play intermediate or junior, which is the way it should be. It's called the Munster Junior Cup, and anyway, that's for you're not going to solve it, friend. No, neither will
probably
I.
Not.
But
probably not.
Isn't that it? And that, but look, Munster were tipping away there last weekend. They won against Benetton or some of them lads. They were expected, but they have a huge game this weekend. Whilst Ulster travel down to Thomond Park, Ulster will not have a full complement of players because they have their eyes on another cup competition of which they're in the semi-final, and Munster would need to be in the top 8. And that, so hopefully they'll get a victory. There's 5 or 6 teams there in around the 43 or 4 point mark, so Munster would need to win tomorrow. The big win last weekend was Connacht. They went and beat the Stormers. That was against what everybody thought, so well done to Connacht. And that's about it on the
Punchestown then. Is Punchestown starting on Tuesday, Johnny?
That's right, Jeff, and it's a huge weekend there. It's probably the biggest national hunt festival in Ireland at the end of April, the first 2 or 3 days in May. When the weather is fine, they'll have massive crowds there. Last year, I think they brought in over 140 or 50,000 people over the 4 or 5 days. It has a huge benefit to the Naas and all the surrounding areas, Newbridge and that. And years ago, Fran, when we were well off, we used to stay in a place called the Killashee House. And we knew people that had a few pounds, and we used to go on the helicopter from the Killashee House over to Punchestown.
Oh, very posh.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Those were the days when we didn't give 2 continental hoots. But anyway, that is
very, very good indeed. And did you want to mention what's happening in the raceway as well in Rose Green, Johnny? Yeah.
That's right, Jeff, and the raceway in Rose Green starts Saturday tomorrow at 3:30 and Sunday at 12:30. They have 6 classes over the 2 days, and there is a world final for the 1 litres. That's on over the weekend. They have the Lightning Rod and they have the European Cup. They have an Irish Open visiting Thunder Rods. They be the Premier Rods, so that an intriguing encounter as well. All that for €20 on Saturday at 3:30 and Sunday at 12:30. When you can get a bag of chips there for €3. So I just better mention that as well.
Well, speaking of prices, the golf tickets for the Ryder Cup in Adare
next year is unbelievable. €500 bloody to see a fella hitting a ball, and we'll be giving out about 35 or 40 euro going to a match, and that is unreal. I mean, €500 for a ticket. Same, it's the deals it ever was in Europe.
Is it indeed?
One time when it's unbelievable.
I was reading that somebody renting out a house 100 kilometres away from Adare up in Galway for the week. €36,000 for the week for the house.
I wonder, could I get a caravan and park it at the back of the house here? The only thing is our dog Bossy here, he's looking over at me now as I mention his name. He'd have to stay in the house, and I don't know what the golf was like a small dog around the place. But anyway, we might put it up. It was a grand way getting a few quid.
But surely JP is going to give you a personal invitation and have you as guest of honour down there.
You'd never know, but I know him fairly well. I'm after meeting him on a good few occasions. A man knocked me into his swimming pool one morning above in Jack Dawes Castle that he had for the horses. Mother of God above tonight. JP McMahon is talking twice.
I was down that way last night on the way to Killarney. God, they're making great strides with the road down there. You can't beat a bit of influence and lots of money. It's mighty.
Oh yeah, well, hey, Fernand, it's absolutely fantastic to see, and they're getting ahead with it. That's unbelievable. Indeed, Fitzgerald's, the woodlands there, that bounds the golf course there in Madeira. I think it's on the 7th or 8th hole. And that, look, listen, all the hotels are booked out, and that, so it's fantastic for the area. But to think €500 for to watch a game of golf for 1 day. Hey, and if you're having a bag of chips on top of it, it's probably a bloody tenner.
It probably is indeed. Yeah, there are a couple of other things you wanted to mention. Michael English, of course, and we're giving away tickets for that great concert.
Yes, and fair play to them. I got a call yesterday, and of course, you do mention it the whole time. There was a concert in the Church of St. Mary's of the Rosary, Nenagh, bank holiday Monday, May the 4th. Tickets from Nenagh Parish Office, local outlets, and online from www.michaelenglish.ie or call 086 35 80 856.
Very good.
Doors open at 7 p.m. The show is at 8. Proceeds to Pieta House and Sarcoma Cancer Ireland. You had a girl on yesterday, friend, and I pulled in on the side of the road. Mother of God, was she some speaker.
Which girl was that now?
A Ryan girl, was it? She was talking about cancer, and she was
amazing piece,
cancer,
amazing piece,
and she was absolutely fantastic yesterday.
Yeah.
She done a great interview with you.
We got a huge reaction to that, Jesse. You better mention Father Jim as well in Thurles, because he was telling us about Patrick Feeney's concert, which is happening this coming Saturday night, tomorrow night indeed, at the Church of St. Joseph and St. Bridget's as well. And the proceeds from that to help with the re-roofing or the roof fund for the cathedral there as well. And tickets available from the Thurles Parish Office. What else did you want? Oh yeah, the daycare centre in Cashel. You wanted to mention Louise is there along with Eddie Golden.
That's right, Louise Morrissey and Eddie Golden. It's on the 4th of June. They have a big night there. There's a Tipperary jersey for a bit of auction and whatever the case may be. That is on the 4th of June. And what else have we here? Oh yes, friend, as we are talking now, there's a hen party out in my place in Portugal in Alvor. There's 18 hens and a chicken. The chicken is the girl Emma. She's getting married the end of May or something like that. But they're all tuned in this morning, sitting down beside the swimming pool there, and they didn't hit Alvor last night into the watering. My favourite watering holes, the Leinster House and Dave's and all of them are the well, because it was too late when they landed in their stay in Alvor. So they were up this morning because I rang him at 7:30.
7:30, you did?
I rang 5 or 6 of their numbers just to get them up and to enjoy the couple of days that they are there. So hopefully they'll have a good crack. Imagine 17 of them or 18 of them, friend. Mother of God, above tonight. And
God.
They will give it one hell of a lash, I know that.
I can only imagine, indeed. And they will drink a toast to you, I would imagine, too. What's happening?
I'd write a few lines for them as well, you see, and that's why I wrote about 16 lines in bits of ditties here and there and the whole lot. Wish them a great crack and all of that. So, and I was listening to Andrew Luby this morning.
Yeah.
He was talking. He was talking about what I would say to Catherine, even watching that programme there sometimes in the middle of the day, Dahi O'Shea or whatever, Mora, I don't know what his name is, but anyway.
Dahi and Mora, yeah.
Did have people in doing a bit of making raspberry jam and making tarts and doing cookery demonstrations, and then they give you a plate to taste and the whole lot. And everyone says, "Oh, that is absolutely beautiful." I said, "Can't anybody ever say that? No, that's not nice.
That's wicked."
Andrew Luby kind of hit the nail this morning on the head with the wine. He said, "Many times have you got a sample of wine? They come on now. They normally give me the sample when I'm out because I'm supposed to be connoisseur of wine, and you just take a gurgle of it, you know." And one particular day I said, "No," I said, I don't like that." Seemingly I was the first person ever to say it. I think they're inside Bailey.
But you see, you're supposed to swirl. You're supposed to swirl it around in your mouth and spit it out. You're not supposed to drink it.
They get some handy for spitting it out at the table. But one night, I was at the Ritz Hotel in London at
Excuse me.
Awards night.
Yeah.
So we were dealing with the big crack and the whole lot, and this person came on and my man said, "Look, he's the sampler of the wine." So she said to him, "What colour?" "There's no discrimination," he said, with Johnny Luby. "Just bring it on." He says, "More than likely he'll go for the red wine, but knowing him, he'll probably have the two." I had the two lots, friend. But you know what really shagged me up?
What?
When I went out in the fresh air.
Oh, I know.
For a smoke. You know, I came back in and I was like Tarzan, the lion. I was looking in all directions, but it would conquer out the fresh air.
Oh, stop! As my late mother used to say, were you a bit foolish when you come back in? That's how she described it.
So many times in my desk when I come back in, and of that, of course, Mike Denver. You know him?
I do. A great old friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, he was on television this morning at 7 or 8 o'clock. They were asking him his favourite, who has lasted the longest and the whole lot, and he went for Philomena Begley.
Yeah, fair play.
So,
legend. A legend, absolutely.
So a legend is right. So it was grand to be watching it. Or Thomastown National School, friend, they have a golf classic, May the 28th and 29th. It's at Tipperary Golf Club. If you go into Thomastown National School or contact the secretary there, it's for deserving cause as well. They're putting on with some bit of an addition and things like that to the school there in Thomastown. I think they'll have it on the... I was going to say... They'll have it advertised there on the, the Tipp FM advertised their free thing once. It's for charity. I didn't, the gig, I don't know, it looked at some bit of a name on it.
Yeah, Carol Power does
listen
it,
to Tipp FM.
Yeah, no problem.
Listen to, the diary.
Yes, yeah. So it's going to be on the diary.
I'll eventually get it. yeah.
The community diary,
is right. And that. So, Fran, I suppose that's about it now. We've nothing else to report. And that I just heard there on the news that they're finding it hard to get out canvassers above in Galway. I'm not surprised, Fran, it's a tough ship, A fella sent me off one time canvassing, and he said, you called to that house. He said, I'll do the other three. I was delighted. It was Mutt Crow, actually, was with me. He done the other three, and I got the greatest bollock in any man ever got from the single house.
Rightly so.
Oh, Jesus, stuff when I think of it.
All right, very good. And that's making reference to that piece on the Mail today, the Fianna Fáil struggling to find people willing to canvass. I can't imagine why anybody would get you and Mutt Crow to go canvassing for them, Johnny. There you go.
Well, Mutt knew what he was doing. I hadn't a clue. But anyway, those were the days, Fran. The best of luck to Liam Cahill and them and the footballers as well. I suppose Liam on Sundays, it is the hurling thing. It's on the GA Go, and if you haven't that, you can tune into Tipp FM. They'll be doing the commentary. They do a marvellous commentary there on Tipp FM. I'm just disappointed that it's not on RTE, but look, friend, there's nothing we can do about it now, only go with the flow.
I'm afraid not. All right, Johnny, look after yourself. Great to talk to you as usual. Have a great weekend.
Right, friend. Thank you.
Thanks. My good friend Johnny Luby there from the Fourpenny Road. This morning. Hello to Nora, and good wishes coming in, and happy birthday from Eddie, Dara and Fia as well. Some woman, it says here. Well, there you go, Nora. Some woman. The violets are scenting the woods, Nora, displaying their charm to the bee. I love that song. Good morning, Fran. Good to see you back on the airwaves. Will you announce that Glenn Flynn is playing in Drumban tonight, and starting at 8:30, and Declan Ainger is in Cashel with both of the guys, in fact, over the weekend in Spain, and they were doing great business out there and playing tremendously well indeed. So that's Glenn tonight in Drumban, and Declan Ainger in Hallinafela tonight as well. I'm not sure who's up in Laura, but if Sean or Barry is listening, they might like to let me know on that. 083 311 3311.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie. Tipp Today, in association with Slattery's of Puckon, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. slatterysgarage.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Tipp Today. I referenced that piece on the front of the Indo when I was looking at the papers this morning, that Dublin City Council have set aside more than 10 million to refurbish its Woodkey HQ, despite planning to move out in 2029. But Joe in Thurles was on to us to say the €10 million refurb on Dublin City Council's Woodkey HQ will be an investment, because when it comes to the final sale of the historic site, the total cost of the move in 2028 is estimated at €581 million. Well, there you go. It's a very good point, Joe, and that could well be the case. Over the past few days, we've been looking back on protests of the past and questioning how groups got the public and those in power to hear their voices. Now, Donald Devaney was part of a trade union and said that sometimes you must do unorthodox things to be listened to, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, Donald.
Good morning, Fran, and good morning to your listeners.
And good to talk to you today. Can I ask you what trade union you were involved in, Donald?
SIP2.
SIP2, okay.
For at least almost 25 years, I'd say, at this stage.
Very good. And were you involved in many disputes over those years?
Oh, we had a few disputes, all right, that we had to resolve, usually related to pay or in changing in work conditions, or sometimes, shall we say, there would be unorthodox methods deployed by management, because they were particularly good at that sort of thing, like, to get their way, but then again, you have to be unorthodox in return.
In terms of how you would protest and stuff. I suppose that I heard a trade unionist speak a few days ago about the large protest that we had in Ireland a couple of weeks ago, and he was making the point that where trade unions are concerned, Donald, I mean, you give notice of the protest has certain parameters, it has a certain timeline to it, and it's used as a tool in some way, and that's how it differed from, I suppose, what we witnessed in Ireland a couple of weeks ago.
Well, traditionally, if you have a ballot for industrial action up to and including all-out strike, so it could be graduated in its approach, shall we say. But once you've given that 7 days' notice, all the gloves are off. Like, you can do whatever you wish to do to make your point. As long as you're doing something that's not illegal or immoral or unsafe, like that's it.
And give us some examples over the years, Donald. What would you have been involved in?
Well, externally we were involved in protests at other people's workplaces because they were involved in trade union recognition struggles, or there were some kind of lockout going on, that kind of thing. Internally, there would have been sit-ins, there would have been go-slows, there would have been sort of work to rule, that kind of approach would have been taken.
And was there generally a positive result from those actions?
Generally, yes, there would have been, because it's like everything. There has to be an avenue for talks at the end of any kind of protest, no matter whether it's unorthodox or more legitimate, shall we say. And then you get into the talks process, and if it doesn't work internally, you go externally, either to the Rights Commissioner, the Employment Workplace Relations Commission, as it was then, or the Labour Court. Or indeed, if it's more serious, you could end up in the High Court.
Is it a balance getting it right, where discommoding the public is concerned, but still getting your point across and using those tools at your disposal? Is that difficult to balance at times? For instance, if you bring... sorry, Donald, this is where graduation comes in. You start, shall we say, slowly, and if you don't get a response, you build a little, then you build a little bit more. It's not you don't drop the nuclear button at the first instance. But I think in the case of the recent protests, nobody was listening, and that was the problem. Nobody in government was listening, no one in civil service was listening, local politicians weren't listening. And it's time they all got a wake-up call. And I think they did get a wake-up call, because I think this wake-up call has started during the last presidential election. And they would be unwise not to take heed of that particular result. Because you must remember, over the years, there has been a disenfranchised section of society that sort of says, well, to hell with the whole lot, like a plague in all your houses, you're all equally useless. The equivalent of an ashtray and a motorbike. And it was interesting that some of the protesters were telling me that they felt that they had to do what they did because they weren't represented by their unions as well as their politicians, Donald, which was kind of interesting.
I would tend to agree with that, because I was very disappointed to hear Congress coming out after the fact, when it was all over. They should have been out there leading the charge. Yeah. I mean, we literally had panzer divisions of John Deere tractors en route to Dublin. It was an amazing sight to see. And it had been coordinated a bit better. If they had someone of the stature of Field Marshal Erwin Rommel to coordinate the event, it would have been far more effective, perhaps. But I don't know why that didn't happen, but it didn't.
And what did you make of the government saying we will only deal with the representatives, in other words, the unions and those organisations, as opposed to representatives of the actual protest? What did you make of it? Do you think the government should have spoke to the guys on the ground?
the government should have got its office behind a lot earlier in this, and they could have got a far better result and come out with smelling of roses. But now, unfortunately, shall I say, as Mr. Trump's parlance, they're toast.
Yeah.
And they're literally, the next general election is a lot closer than people think. And I did note with interest, so I would say, some of the newbies coming out and saying, no, we don't have much confidence in Mr. Martin, the Taoiseach. But like, that was only tokenism, because like they're thinking of the next generation.
Well, they came out and said that after voting confidence, in the government.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. Like, I mean, it's just just in case, a kind of an insurance policy, if you like, with one eye in the next general election.
And still, we're reading this morning that Fianna Fáil is struggling to find people who are willing to canvass for them in the upcoming by-election in Galway. And again, that seems to be about party leadership in some fashion.
Well, as the French would say, quelle surprise.
Oh, yeah, I'm delighted to see you're bringing a bit of class to the programme this morning after Johnny Luby being on.
Thank you, Frank.
So multilingual.
Wunderbar, I would say over there.
Indeed, yeah. So,
no, but in terms of the trade union part of it, though, and the organisation of it, I get this distinct feeling that in both the Farmers Association, the hauliers, and indeed the trade union movement in general, I think a lot of people have lost faith in the leadership because they see them as being too close to government and government policy.
Yes, and do you go along with that, or is that fair?
I think it's a fair analysis, because when I speak to people every day, I speak to farmers, I speak to people in business, I speak to people who are still working in a trade union environment.
Yeah.
They have the same problem. And it's time people woke up and smelt the coffee a little bit, because this is not going to end well if they don't listen.
And you think they haven't been listening anyway? Is that?
No, they haven't. They haven't,
Yeah.
because the protests that has occurred over the past couple of weeks were about far more than fuel prices. Fuel prices was the straw that brought camel's back.
Yeah.
And set everybody on fire.
What else was in there, as far as you're concerned? Was it general cost of living? Was it other things?
Cost of living, housing, health, uncontrolled illegal immigration, IPAS. You can throw everything into the pot there, because government seems to be wandering along here aimlessly. There's no plan economically for us. That is quite clear. I noticed in the last couple of days, Europeans have come out and said, "Oh dear, well lads, you can now relax on the taxation on fuel for a while, and that might calm things down a little bit." Again, after the fact. But I think they're also having an eye on, in Miss van der Leyen's case anyway, the future, because I believe Mr. Orban is interested in taking her job. Now that could be interesting.
Cat among the pigeons is sort of springing to mind when you bring up.
Oh, I think more like a tiger, I'd say, at that stage. That could really upset the apple cart, I would say.
It certainly would indeed. But do you
more of that later, I'm sure.
Absolutely. What we saw on our streets and on our motorways, was that a game changer, do you think? Has that changed us irrevocably, do you think?
Well, you see, it has, because this is not over yet, and if politicians think it's over, they're a little like the ostrich with their head stuck in the sand, and the tiger is approaching looking for lunch. Because we have the European presidency coming up, and I can see havoc at that. Because
in what way? What way?
Well, if the farmers take a leaf out of the French colleagues' approach, they don't just protest on the motorway, they'll lay down soil on the motorway and they'll plant it. And they've done it.
And they'll spread slurry in.
Well, those vacuum
Paris
tanks that we saw on the M7, I was wondering, were they actually full? Now, the tempting thought, to touch the river at the wrong time.
Oh, Lord.
Sorry.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. That's...
but the French would do it, no problem. They just drive up in front of the Parliament building and let go.
So what are we looking at, do you think? Will we see more protests like we have been seeing, Donald?
I think you will.
Yeah.
This is not over. I said the European presidency is coming. I believe Mr. Trump is coming too.
Yes.
Now that could be fascinating altogether. I could see him not even able to get out of Shannon Airport.
So
if he does come.
All of the political spectrum, you think, might be protesting over the next while. Well, much to look forward to. Good to talk.
I think in your newsroom, France, you could be somewhat busy.
Somewhat busy. I will prepare them for it. Don't look after yourself. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
God bless you, Brian. Take care. Bye-bye.
It's our good friend, Donald Devaney there. How do you feel about that? 083 311 3311.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie. Tip Today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, yesterday we spoke to Stephen Smirl from Accredited Genealogists Ireland about the census of 1926 and about the amount of people right around the country who've been tracking down their ancestors through the publication of that data. Well, Helen Walsh, great friend to the show over the years from Clonmel, has been having a great time, I believe, researching her own ancestry, and she joins me now. Good morning to you, Helen.
Good morning, John. How are you?
I'm well indeed. Great to talk to you today, Helen. You've been having a good time delving into the census of 1926?
I have. I was just so excited about it coming online because I was literally counting down the hours.
Were you?
When I realized, yeah, I was, because I'm fascinated by my ancestors, and sometimes, something I pick up on something and go, well, I didn't know that, or like in this case, I found out that people I was told I was related to, I'm not related to at all. And I'm supposed to look like them. So, that begs a few questions.
It does indeed. And what did you discover? Any surprises there for you besides that, Helen?
Besides that, well, that was the big surprise.
Yeah.
But one thing that was a huge surprise, now my late father was a historian and a genealogist. And he kept a lot of records of our families.
Right.
So that when I was checking up 1926, now, prior to this, I had been delving in, like over the years, into 1901 and 1911.
Yeah.
So, of course, 1926 brought me into, my mum was born in 1921. So I knew she'd be there. But I was able to cross-reference what was coming up in the census, with addresses, because that can be a bit tricky.
Okay, yeah.
And then you see, because certain names would be, if they're very popular Irish surnames and first names, you could be landing in the wrong place altogether. But my late father kept meticulous records.
Yeah.
So I was able to cross-reference and make sure that I got the right family.
It's very good. So, are you telling me, because I have very little knowledge of these census, I must say, but I mean, is this more complex? Is there more data in this by comparison to the previous ones, 1911 and 1901?
There's only more, well, I think what maybe is there are more records, because the records of 1901 and 1911 and prior to that had been destroyed by fire.
Yes. So
only a certain amount would have been able to be retrieved, whereas the 1926 census records are complete, and that makes a difference.
Right. Very good indeed. So
here's the strange thing is that my grandfather, so the father of my historian dad, trying to find him in 1926, I haven't been able to find him.
Wow.
And nor could I find his wife, and I have their details, their years of birth, everything I could possibly find. And I went back to 1911 to see what the heck was going on. And I found my grandfather in 1911, and I knew he got married thanks to my dad's records. I knew they got married in February 1926, and the census was April 1926, and I knew where they had moved to in Dungarvan. So this was very odd that I couldn't find him. So it may be that he was anti-Teresa, Yeah. It may have been that he thought, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it could have been, and there could be lots of reasons. Now, I don't mean this in your case, but is there a danger here that, stories that people were told about their families over the years might have been, I don't know, fabrications or stuff might have been covered up or something like that. Is there a danger that this kind of can, and I don't mean this in your case, but it can open a can of worms, if you know what I mean?
I think it can, absolutely. And here's the thing, that because thankfully I seem to have inherited my dad's genes for doing research. I was doing research in one part of the family, and it looked like the surname was wrong, and it should have been a different surname altogether all along. So we're going back over 100 years, and I'm thinking, wow, so many people with the wrong surname. And then I did another check. I went back a bit and discovered, and used my dad's records and discovered it's okay. No problem. It's all right. The surname is right. But it fascinated me because I thought of the thousands of people affected by this if it was wrong. So, and yet again, one was a common surname, the other not at all. But, it was just fascinating. Yeah, well, that proved to be no panic at all. No, nothing to see here.
Yeah, I'm thinking as well, Helen,
my mum's side.
I'm thinking as well that people might have decided to change spelling of their surname as well, because that's common enough. Does that play into the difficulty in doing investigation too?
It does, because dropping a Mac or an O makes a difference. Putting the name in Irish.
Oh, of course.
Using a person's pet name instead of their given name.
Yeah.
These are the things that I came across in my own family. And then this other one, the one that I'm supposed to be related to, the Lannans of Dungarvan. Now, those are people who own the tannery in Dungarvan. And I was told that I looked like them. And I thought I kind of accepted that over the years. And now I've discovered from the census, I'm not related to them at all. My grandaunt was married to a Lannan. And on the census, you can see Lannon. But you go researching it, and it's spelled Lammon. So there are a few things to be considered, that transcription may be inaccurate.
You really need to be a Miss Marple where some of this is concerned, don't you? And very dogged about it as well.
You do, and this is the thing. Because we now have Google, we have a lot more tools at our disposal, say, than my dad had.
Yeah, of course.
And there was one branch of the family that I was trying to find out about, and just for the hell of it, I said, I'll just put that into Google and his occupation and where he lived. I see nothing may come up. It might just throw up the census again. Fine. It threw up the most amazing family links.
Isn't that incredible?
And found out about family lost at sea, why a certain member of the family had been named, who had they been named after, the profession, their jobs that they had been doing that had been slipped through the cracks. Another member of the family who had just suddenly disappeared and has never been found. They just fallen off the map.
We give out an awful lot about modern technology and modern communication and social media and all of that, but this is fantastic, though, isn't it? I mean, it really is brilliant.
Yes. And do you know what I think is important? What it might prompt in people is that they might actually do a family tree, because there are so many people who may not know what their grandmother's surname was.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an important thing to know.
Can I ask you, Helen, did this investigation, did that cost you anything?
No, not at all. Yeah. Because I had all the material from my late father.
Okay.
And he has a lot. And I have family trees going back to the 1700s. So, there's right up to after say, my cousins who were younger than me when they were born. So I have all those records.
So you had a lot of material to begin with. Would you be able to help Mary, who was on to us, and she said, I'd like to ask Helen about the census. How do I find out the DED, which is required on the first page? And Mary thinks this is district electoral area, I think it refers to. She said, without it, I have not been able to find my father and grandparents near New Wing. Can you help her there?
Yes, because I was caught by that as well, and it wasn't allowing me go into, say, a place called Kilcanavie. So I went back to 1911. And I found my grandparents there as children, and it gave me the DED. Because it was, for some reason, the records are easier to research in 1901 and 1911 with regard to the DED. 1926 is a nightmare.
That's very interesting. And would you recommend it as, I don't know, as a hobby, I suppose, Helen? Would you recommend that people go and do this?
Absolutely, because it's important that we do not, and especially now when we speak so much about our culture and what we're losing, we need to be aware of our own backgrounds, our own, our own grandparents, great-grandparents, and to have that material available then for our children, because I can't help feeling that we may be the last generation to hold on to this.
Wow. Helen, a pleasure as always. Look after yourself and enjoy the rest of your investigation into your genealogy. Thank you for that. 1800 938 007. News and information is coming up.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie. Tip Today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. slatterysgarage.ie.
Thanks, Pat, and welcome back to the second hour of Tip Today. Now, Carl Clancy is a great old friend of ours on the show. He would have been part of our panel over many years and often contributes to the programme. Well, I've only found out recently Carl is a poet as well as everything else, and he's launching his book of poetry called Once There Was a Boy tomorrow at 2 p.m. in A Place for You on Gladstone Street in Clonmel. And we're going to talk to him, I know, next Monday about the book. It's in the car. I can't wait to have a look at it over the weekend. But anyway, the official launch tomorrow, and you'll be made very welcome if you want to make your way to A Place for You on Gladstone Street in Clonmel. Now, earlier on this week, Donald Doyle, who was sitting in for me, spoke to Professor of Economics John Fitzgerald on the programme. There was a huge amount of reaction to that particular piece, and I'm glad to be joined now by Kevin McSherry from Open Season in Nenagh, and he was listening to the piece. Good morning to you, Kevin, and good to see you today. How are you?
I'm very well, friend. Thank you very much. Beautiful morning in Nenagh this morning. The castle looks magnificent. Our 800-year-old castle, yeah.
Isn't it great? And always start on a positive. Speaking of positives, I was told to say happy birthday to you today.
Thank you very much, yes. Yes, I'd actually forgotten it was my birthday today. I was so busy all week.
You're working so hard.
I was so busy, and then I was trying to do a little bit of research for the show this morning.
Yeah.
And I actually forgot.
Well, I'm sure you'll be spoiled.
My sister reminded me when I came home. There was a card under the door for my sister Mary last night, and that was the first reminder I got.
Very good indeed. Tell me, what did you make of the interview with Professor John Fitzgerald?
Well, do you know what? It was kind of I was half amused, half shocked, and if there was another half perplexed as well. I thought it was a very mixed and unusual kind of a take on things, and I know he's a professor of economics, and my economics extended to a pass in the Leaving Cert in economics and 2 modules with Tony Ledden in University of Limerick. Yeah. But I thought what the professor was kind of outlining was a very what you would probably call it kind of market economics or laissez-faire economics.
Kind of survival of the fittest.
Survival of the fittest. Yeah. And I thought it smacked, actually I've written it here in my notes, it smacked a lot of Marie Antoinette-esque commentary. Yeah. Not in this case let them eat cake, but maybe let them eat EVs.
Right, yeah, and he was very fond of the idea of people turning to the electric vehicles. Some of what he said, though, made sense to a degree. He was looking for whatever interventions the government might make or have made, it should be targeted in some way. Nothing much wrong with that, Kevin, is there?
Maybe not, but the problem, and if we go back to the fuel taxes and just about making sense, he actually did make some sense at the end of the article, and he gave, unlike a lot of politicians, which he's not a politician, to be fair, but he gave a very straight answer. He was asked about Bitcoin, was it madness? And he said an emphatic yes. I thought it was very good, a straight answer from somebody for once. But
what about that notion, though, of targeting?
So the problem here, and if we go back to the fuel protests, right? The actual problem, I think, with the whole situation was it's the squeezed middle. It's the people who get up, as Leo Varadkar, unfortunately for him, said a number of years ago, the squeezed middle, the people who get up in the morning and go to work. This group, which is the big group in Ireland, it makes up the vast majority of people who actually get up in the morning and go to work. This group has been consistently, and I'm talking now for a long period, like 20 years, consistently ignored by government. They've been frozen out. We saw during the fuel protests, the government and Micheál Martin only wanted to talk to people who were inside the tent. And we all know the saying about, keeping people inside the tent and people outside the tent. They only wanted to talk to people inside that familiar tent. And voices from outside were just utterly ignored. Micheál Martin gave us a lecture about democracy and how the protesters should possibly run for election. But he was the very man only months ago who stopped people putting their name forward through the council system to run for presidency. I thought it was an awfully ironic thing for him to come out with, that the protesters were undemocratic and they had no legitimacy, when he actually actively blocked people getting their names put forward for the presidential election. I thought it was a shocking thing to come out of.
What do you think? I mean, the professor had lots more to say about the situation that we're in. He believed, for instance, that the government should not have given in to the protesters.
Yeah, I'm not sure did I pick that up off him, but he would probably take that opinion. I'd say, to be quite honest, the government hadn't much choice but to give in to the protesters in the end. I think if the government could have toughed it out, they would have, but their hand was forced, and I think they had to back down. And I think, again, I know that the guards give out parking tickets to some of the protesters. It'd be very, if we could get AI to do a simple bit of research, if we could find out everybody who got those parking tickets, I bet all those people are working people who pay their taxes, who go to work in the morning, as Leo Varadkar said, and who have been consistently squeezed out and overtaxed for at least 20 years. A lot of the people who are over, we'd say 40, 45, like myself, they'll remember the bank crash in 2008 and up to 2011. The Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael government at the time, between them, they brought in the universal social charge, which increased the tax burden on working people massively to bail out the banks.
That was to be a temporary
And that was a temporary
charge,
tax for a year or two. And we're still paying that tax at the moment. So what's actually happened and led to all the malcontent and to the fuel protests, it wasn't just about the fuel. It was about how people in Ireland are being persistently overtaxed and given terribly poor services for the level of taxation we're paying. Now, you could quote statistics about this all day long, but just one, and it was David McWilliams published it there a week or two ago. We have, I think, the second highest expenditure on medicine in the European Union, but we've the 15th worst outcome. So, and when we start to look around the country at every service, we start to find that everywhere you turn, the services are appalling. The waiting lists are terrible. We have no A&E in Limerick. If you go in, you don't know when you'll be seen. So we're being absolutely crucified with tax. So I just made up a list.
And money wasted,
and then
of course.
Huge wastes of money. Like, we're looking at millions paid. We're still trying to build the rail line out to Dublin Airport. I think is it underground. They hired a 65-year-old from New Zealand on $500,000 a year to organise that 2 years ago. I can't think of his name, but very well-respected guy. After 2 years in the job, he's quit and he's going back to his family. Like a 10 to 15-year project like that, who would hire a 65-year-old? from New Zealand whose family aren't moving to Ireland with him to take on a 10 to 15 year project and pay him $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
And we have the bicycle shed fiasco. I mean, the list is endless, and I hadn't time to write down the list.
Children's Hospital.
The Children's Hospital,
things,
and we're looking at people then who are to the pin of their collar trying to pay for the normal daily shopping, fuel, to put fuel in the car, take the kids to school, collect them from the creche. Looking at this utter squanderance of money, and it will come out in the end. We're going to hit hard times again, just like any business. It doesn't stay good forever, and we're going to have wasted our chance, Frank.
Let me ask you about that, Kevin, because again, to paraphrase the professor, when he was talking about the people, the hauliers and the business people who were out protesting, what he said was that if their costs increase, they need to just pass that on to the customers. Now, I could apply that to your business and say, if your costs increase, all you have to do is charge more over the counter.
Yeah.
Did that make any sense to you?
Yeah. Well, I listened back to the interview because I did listen back in detail to it, because when I heard it originally live on the radio, I couldn't pay full attention. And I actually quote him here. He said, business just put up its prices. And prices change, and businesses pass those prices on to the consumer. So he's actually advocating for inflation. That inflation is actually caused then by the high price of fuel. So you could take the corollary from that the government is actually causing inflation by persisting and insisting on higher fuel prices. In fact, the European Union, one of the economic or the central banks said they may have to increase, I found this very funny, interest rates due to inflation. But the inflation is being caused by the high price. It's not the high price of oil, it's the high taxes on the fuel that are increasing the cost of the fuel and the inflation. So I have a friend of mine who's also a professor of economics from Japan, and he's from the University of Tokyo, Masa Nuki. And I asked Masa the other night over WhatsApp in Japan, am I missing something here? I said, the government is causing inflation through the high price of oil, and then we're being told by the European government or the European Central Bank that they'll have to tax us yet again with higher interest rates on our mortgages because they need to dampen inflation. And he said to me, you're absolutely correct. He said, you're not wrong.
What about your own business, just to bring it back to what you're experiencing? What kind of costs have gone through the roof for you over let's take the last couple of years, for example.
It's not even the last couple of years, it's over the long run, over the last 20 years.
But let's take rates, in relatively recent times.
Yeah, well, rates. We voted to put rates up 5% in Nenagh this year. I'm not sure if that covers the whole of Tipperary or it is the whole of Tipperary. And by the way, they were on from Clonmel about that. Is it BID system? I'd be highly sceptical. There were the three people interviewed from Clonmel the other day. They spoke about when it is formed and when it is set up, there'd be a CEO. When I hear the word CEO, I think quango and more waste of money. I'd guess...
they would disagree profoundly with you on that, and they would say that there's a new departure for business in the town.
Yeah, everywhere. Whenever I hear CEO, I think quango, and I think NGOs. Where we're also squandering, I think it's 10% of the taxes we're collecting now are being dispersed through NGOs.
Largely, the business people of the town believe that this is the way to go, and they're the ones who will be paying for it.
If they're happy to pay for it, so be it.
But tell me about your own costs.
Yeah. So wage costs through the roof. We have the dearest electricity in Europe. I think, if not I think it's maybe the second dearest electricity in Europe. The European Union came out only a couple of days ago and told the European governments that they have to try and get the daily standing charges reduced. We're paying huge standing charges. We're paying huge standing charges for water. These are all the costs that the public don't see. So just for example, our own little shop here in Nenagh on the side of the street, and lots of people will note, it's 1,400 square foot on the ground floor, and we're paying Tipp County Council just over €5,000 in rates. Now, when I tell customers that, they're horrified and shocked that a small business the size of ours is paying €5,000 a year in rates. But that's just a fact. We're paying about €800 a year in water rates, even though we don't use water, and that's water. That's just for the connection to the water infrastructure.
Electricity,
standing orders, as I said. Well, not standing order, but standing charges. significant. It's about €2 something a day, but every house in the country, every business is paying that connection fee. And again, very, very high electricity prices. But again, it's a failure of government. We haven't planned for any of these things. We've consistently neglected the infrastructure of the country. I'd say bad planning all the way. And just I was thinking, the professor alluded to people not buying electric cars, and that the presenter on
poor Donald has been out shopping.
Yeah, and Professor Fitzgerald struck me as being surprised that Donald hadn't changed his car in the last 4 years. So I started thinking about that middle in Ireland who are paying for everything on maybe 35 to 50,000 a year, and I just made down a little since the bank crash. They've been paying. Well, basically, you have PRSI stolen off you before you ever get to see it at 11% by the state. Since the bank crash, we've been paying USC. They increased the VAT rate to 23%. It's the highest VAT rate in Europe. So every time you get outside the door of your house, you're hit with 23% VAT after you've paid your income tax. You pay an insurance levy when you insure your car. You have a levy on your insurance if you're fortunate enough to be able to still afford private health insurance. There's a government levy on your health insurance. Many schools now ask for school contributions. Childcare costs are massive since the government regulated that. You also even get to pay the TV licence out of the few bob you have left at the end of the week. You pay standing charges on your electricity, property tax since the bank crash. If you're fortunate enough that you have kids in college and you're earning any little bit more than the average, you're paying for college fees. And it came out on the radio the other day that half the children in the country are not getting their dental checks through primary and national school. So what we have here is it's a regime in Dublin that seems to think it can continue to just penally tax the people of Ireland and then provide no services. And that's the bottom line of it. And what Professor Fitzgerald is describing is a form of laissez-faire economics. And the same economics were applied during the famine in Ireland, when people were literally starving on the sides of the road and we were exporting food out of the country because the market will sort everything out in the end, which is more or less what he said the other day.
There was a result to the protest, and there was some government intervention. Was that a game changer, that protest? Do you think the government are finally listening to the people?
I don't know if they're listening. I think they got a fright to realise that people are so unhappy. But, I mean, if you came and stood in my shop and talked to the people, which I do every day. In fact, a lot of people will tell you I talk too much to the people. And but if you talk to people, everyone is unhappy. And I'm convinced people are being overtaxed and underserviced. We're being crucified with tax of all forms, new taxes, increased charges, and get nothing in return.
Do you think then unhappiness will take people back onto the streets again, for example?
I think it has reared its head, and I know Ryan O'Mara mentioned the word, my wife talks about it an awful lot, the social contract. We pay our taxes, but we expect that the country is run properly in return. But scandal after scandal, children's hospitals, bicycle shelters. What's the front of the Irish Independent show us today? They're going to spend
the refurbishment of the Dublin City buildings, and even though it's being sold on,
and they're going to sell it on next. So another 10 million thrown away down the tubes. If they're going to build new offices, surely don't spend the 10 million on the one you're in at the moment. It's absolutely everywhere we turn, and we're not talking. When I was 20 years ago, we were talking millions. And now everything is in billions. And I mean, it's again just the water pipeline from Bird Hill to Dublin. We've proven now. If you needed proof beyond proof, we've proven that the Irish country, the Irish state, cannot manage infrastructure projects of any size, and we're still intent that we're going to try and build a water pipe from Bird Hill to Dublin. The ultimate cost of which they can't actually tell us, but somewhere north of 12 billion. They've actually given themselves carte blanche. They actually said when they were in the hotel in Nenagh that it could be 12,000 million, but it could exceed that.
And it's a questionable project in itself anyway. Really good to talk to you today,
Lovely,
Kevin.
friend. Thanks very much. I had a good rant anyway.
We'll allow you to get back to work now. How is business going for you, though, dare I ask?
So business is okay, but business is very tough. I was telling you just before I came on, I came into the shop yesterday morning at 9 o'clock and I left at 9 o'clock last night doing little TikTok marketing videos.
Yeah.
So we're making a living, we're doing okay, but it's hard work, and I also feel, we should be looking after more of our small enterprises, better.
All right. Well, the very best of luck to you, Kevin, and good to talk to you today. Thank you very much indeed for that. We'll take a break. We're back with more in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie. Tip Today, in association with Slattery's of Puckon, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. slatterysgarage.ie.
Welcome back to Tip Today, 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number if you want to speak to Leanne. You can text to WhatsApp 083 311 3311. And of course, the email is tiptoday@tipfm.com. Now, big reaction to Kevin and that piece that we did with him this morning. And we will get back to that, we promise you, and we'll reference it during our panel discussion this morning as well. Multi-award winning singer-songwriter Emma Longford will be taken to the stage at Boobaroo tomorrow night, and ahead of the show she joins me now in the studio. Emma, good morning to you.
Hi Fran, how's it going?
It's disgraceful to ask a singer to be up and about at this hour.
It's basically the middle of the night for me. Yeah. But
are you a night person? You are.
I'm getting better at mornings, but I got into gardening in the past couple of years, and that's prompted me to be up in the morning a bit more. But I've access to a garden now in a way I didn't before, and I've been growing my potatoes and growing my carrots and sweet peas.
all self-sufficient. You're
trying to be. That's the goal.
Is it 10 years?
10 years.
10 years
this year is the official title of the tour is the 10 years on and she's still at the feckin' music. Isn't she very brave? God help her in this economy tour. So that's the full title.
That's a bit of a mouthful.
A little bit. I don't know. I think it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, I think so too. I'd say it looks great on the posters and all
it does,
of that.
I tell you.
Will you tell me about the beginning of it all for your music? I mean, how did you get into it?
I have been singing from the day I came out of my mother's womb. I was singing from day one, to the point of when I was about 12 years old, I nearly lost my voice to vocal nodules from overexertion, which was, the doctor was really surprised because he was like, Adele has nodules. There are big famous singers that are getting these and you're 12 years old getting them. So I had to go on vocal rest for a while and regain my voice and retrain my voice. And I'm very grateful I did. So then 2016, I had just finished my undergrad degree and was writing little bits at home and recording them and putting them online and chancing my arm. And one of them caught the imagination of people, called Tug of War, which is a song about dealing with social anxiety and anxiety in general, which I was going through a lot of at the time. Didn't realise at the time. I found out I was autistic in the past few years as well, and so I suppose at the time I was struggling with a lot of that, and the various kind of social barriers that were there for me, and people connected with it and wanted to hear more. So I crowdfunded an EP off the back of that, and put that out, toured the country, did I think 100 shows in a year, because I had energy back then. I was a much younger woman 10 years ago. And and then I ended up getting booked to do a German tour. And as part of that German tour in 2018, I was told I needed to produce an album. So in the course of 6 months, I produced my first album, and that did quite well. Got me an RTE Radio and Folk Award. And then it kind of just snowballed from there, and I'm still here, still
Isn't
standing.
It incredible? The voice is remarkable. I hear
Thank
all
you.
sorts of influences in there. Does that come from your vocal training?
I guess. I mean, I had my start in musical theatre. I was in, stage school at home. And so I would have spent my formative years at Expressive Arts Stage School in Limerick. So I would have gotten a lot from that. But then, my parents were feeding me a very round diet of, the Beatles and Norah Jones and Eva Cassidy and Elvis and all kinds of stuff. So I think I've wound up with a sort of a mongrel of a voice of there's a lot of trad, a lot of folk in there, but the musical theatre and the 70s kind of pop and rock coming
and
as well.
In terms of Irish artists, who did you look to, or who were you inspired
there
by?
was Declan O'Rourke was one of my kind of that was one of my big influences coming up, and kind of then more recently it would be I remember going to see Jack L as well then in the theatricality included in the kind of the folkness and the Irishness, but then more recently there's a lot of I listen to Wallace Bird religiously, and we're kind of coming down with amazing, incredible artists here. So.
Well, what is the connection with Janice Ian, by the way? Because I love Janice.
I love Janice Ian as well. I love her politically and I love her musically. It was a weird one. There was a broadcaster in Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania, who kind of got into my stuff, and he would have a contact with Janice Ian. And he saw I did a cover of At 17 at home at some point during the pandemic and passed it on to her, I suppose. And then she was doing a project called the Better Times Project, and I got an email from Janice Ian one day. And I thought it was spam. I thought it was a joke. I didn't know what was going on. It was hi, Emma Longford. I'm Janice Ian. I'm a musician I was of course, this is not real. Janice Ian wouldn't feel the need to tell me who she is. This is ridiculous. Yes. But we wound up chatting over and back. I got involved in the Better Times Project, recorded a version of her song in Irish and in English. And then we just kind of stayed in touch, and I sent her my song Bird Song, and she loved it. And then she sent me a song that she was working on, another kind of a feminist ballad that she was working on. And I was this is amazing. And I got to meet her then in person. I went to Folk Alliance. I was selected by Culture Ireland to go to Folk Alliance in Kansas City, which is a massive music convention for people who don't know, where people in the industry can meet and talk. And Janice Ian was talking at that, and I got to meet her in person, and that was really, really cool.
Incredible. And of course her own backstory is amazing. She lost all her money, didn't she? And
the day she wrote At 17, she was sitting at her kitchen table. She had gone broke, and that song kind of came to her while she was just sort of meddling around on the guitar. And she's so enduring, I think, as a person and as a musician. So that's something I really admire.
And speaking of enduring, the winding way down to Kelbay, you will always be that will be your At 17. I
mean, that's very kind of you. I hope so. I've been really touched by seeing kids singing it at Cultus and at various things around the country, and people singing it at sessions and stuff. So the fact that that Kells Bay now lives in the heart of people all over the world, and I've played a small part in that, it means a lot to me, because my granduncle, who kind of spent most of his adult life there, he loved the place so much, and he really wanted to.
It's near Carsavine, isn't it?
Just down the road from Carsavine, and it really is a winding way.
He was remarkable though, wasn't he?
Yeah. Eamon Longford was a great man.
Yeah.
He was very, very loved. So, and his whole thing was connecting people and bringing people together. So the fact that song has kind of played some little part in me meeting people who knew him and making new friends and bringing musicians into my life. It just, I
remember the first time I heard it, I just couldn't get over it. It's so, there's a sense of place in it, but even though I have no connection with cars, but it meant something special to me. I can't explain why, but
I've heard that a bit from people who've never been to Ireland even, or have no idea where Kells Bay is or Carsavine is, that it brings them there.
Yeah, it's nostalgia, I think, storytelling and all of that. Will we have a listen to some of it at least?
Let's do it.
Oh, the road stretches out before your feet on the winding way down to Kells Bay, and the golden sun sets like no other, they say, on the winding way down to Kells Bay, where sorrows met with smiling eyes, and a great black cloak brushed with stars for a sky, and the old trees leaning there to whisper a tale on the winding way down to Kells Bay. There's a song in the heart a joke to be shared and a drink to be drank on the winding way down to Kells Bay. And the green Kerry hills overlooking the sea, and the fuchsias are blooming so brightly and sweet, and the ocean could carry our worries away on the winding way down to Kells Bay. On the winding way down, oh, the winding way down, on the winding way down to Kells Bay. Yes, the ocean could carry our worries away on the winding way down to Kells Bay.
It's just so gorgeous and such a beautiful sound. You were saying that great care was taken in the production of it and the way you sang it in studio.
Yeah, massive care.
Yeah.
The two lads, Chris O'Brien and Graham Murphy, the production suite in Dublin, are they're like family at this stage. I've worked with them for so long. From day one of my career, they've kind of been there, and they just cared about every line and the expression and the emotion in every line, and making sure that we captured the heart of the song, you know, which I think has come across. People have picked up on that, and people who've heard the song have live as much as the recording, but the recording really does kind of connect with people, and it obviously has the capacity for wider reach, so that's always great.
Isn't it great indeed? Well, here's a real treat, because you brought your guitar with you.
I did.
You're going to do something live for us?
Something live and something lively.
Wouldn't that be brilliant
There you
altogether?
go now.
And again, as I say, disgraceful to ask an artist to perform it. What is it now? 10:42. But there you go. We're looking forward to the morning interpretation of this. What are you going to do for us?
I'm going to do a song called Demon Darling. I play this one on my shows, usually with like full band with drummer and everything, and it's a big kind of a house rocking song. But it's a song about life choices and about being careful with your life choices and the demons we all have inside us, not letting the demons get us. Getting the demons before they get us, basically.
Very good advice.
Yes,
very good
yes,
advice indeed. In your own time, Emma.
You fell into his arms that night. I watched as you gave in to vanity and loneliness and all your buried thoughts of him, and darkness overcame you as you tangled up in sheets. Oh, what a tangled web we weave. You're so practiced in deceit. You've got a demon, darling. It's hungry for the kill, and oh, if you don't slay it now, perhaps you never will. You never will. You followed him out of the dark to where your eyes could meet, and danced to music in your head. Toe to toe you shared a beat, so easily you drifted into some adopted dream where nothing else existed out beyond the blinding streetlights beam. You've got a demon, darling, it's hungry for the kill, and oh, if you don't slay it now, perhaps you never will. You've got a demon, darling, it's hungry for the kill. Oh, if you don't slay it now, perhaps you never will. You never will. You never will. You never will. Die, 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 die. When he awoke, he'd left you with the love you'd left behind, an olive branch around your wrist, all he'd left to ease your mind. When he awoke, he'd left you with the love you'd left behind, an olive branch around your wrist, all he'd left to ease your mind. You've got a demon, darling, it's hungry for the kill, and oh, if you don't slay it now, perhaps you never will. You've got a demon, darling, it's hungry for the kill. Oh, if you don't slay it now, perhaps you never will. You never will. You never will. You never will. Da 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 da. Da-dum.
Oh my, oh my. That was just incredible.
Thank you.
That voice is... do you know, that was... I'm safe to say that was the best live performance we've had in the programme. That's
I'm
amazing.
telling everyone you said that.
I hope you will. That's incredible. The
Thanks,
voice control and the falsetto and everything. That's amazing.
Cheers. It's funny, I listen back to songs I wrote when I first started playing 10 years ago, and I started them in very, very much higher keys. And I'm trying to reach those keys now, and I'm like, oh, Jesus, no. God, no.
But the range, I mean, even the bottom end of the voice is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the morning time for you now.
Do you work at that all of the time?
I mean, I do, yeah. I'm quite careful with my voice. It helps that I am so socially awkward that I don't talk in crowds in loud settings generally anyway.
Yeah.
So, that helps.
Yeah, of course,
but yeah, not talking in loud, noisy pubs if I can help it. And just minding my voice generally, hydration, all that stuff does it. I feel like such a much healthier person than I am when I talk about my voice.
Yeah.
Just because I do have to take such care to make sure it doesn't go on me again.
You glossed over that being socially awkward there. Do you mean that? Are you?
Oh yeah.
Are you?
Massively. Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's socially awkward or also just sort of very introspective to the point of overanalyzing my answers to things and in a social environment overanalyzing what someone else has said back to me and not understanding the social cues, all that kind of thing. So it's...
I think we're related.
Cousins.
and the diagnosis, did that make sense of all of that?
Yeah, it did. It really did. It was actually very freeing to find out that I was autistic. It was something I hadn't thought about. And then I was doing a live... over the course of the pandemic, once a week I ran these social sing-songs online, which, I think we all got so tired of live streams and stuff. But this became really fun because we picked a theme every week. We had a different special guest. We had a different charity recipient for each sing-song.
Yes.
And so I had the privilege of having the likes of Paddy Casey on, Mike Hanrahan came on, and one week we had Fiachna O'Brien on come on. Yes.
Yeah.
And he chose his charity recipient was As I Am, who are an amazing autism advocacy group. And before I do any of these sessions, I go away and I do research and I find out about the charity so I can talk about it on the live stream. And I looked at it As I Am, I looked at their website, and there was a segment on autism in women, which is relatively underdiagnosed at the time. I know people now have this mad notion that autism is being overdiagnosed. It's not. But I looked at it and I recognised so much in what they were talking about. So much that as a kid I thought there was something wrong with me. So much as a teenager made me really just doubt myself and feel very isolated a lot of the time. And suddenly I was seeing this tick box thing, this list of things that all resonated. And when I did go through the diagnosis procedure and had all, it was a very intense, very rigorous thing, and you really have to look within yourself and analyse your behaviours, and it's difficult. But when I did get and I did find out I was autistic, it was just the most freeing thing, and it has been really freeing to know now, like, what I need. When I'm on tour, there's a lot of stuff that would basically cause me autistic burnout in the past.
Right, so
few
you're
years.
protecting yourself.
I'm now protecting myself and making allowances and knowing when I need to step away from things and knowing what kind of interactions are going to really burn me out. And my fans have been so kind and considerate to me around that as well. Like, they know, they'll come up and talk to me after the show, but they'll be like, I recognise that you might need a minute. So if,
Is that brilliant?
It's really, really beautiful. It's really gorgeous that we live in a world now where people are able to be considerate and are able to take that minute and go, oh, okay, I'm not neurodivergent, but I get it. I see it. I've learned about this and you've talked about this. So I'll give you a minute to... It's lovely. It's really lovely.
And what about the positives of it, Emma? I mean, has it brought something to your artistry, to your songs?
I think it has. I think I've allowed myself to be the songwriter I want to be instead of the songwriter I thought I was meant to be. I've allowed myself to explore things, and I love researching. I love getting lost in research. My current project is Women in Irish History and Mythology, and I've allowed myself to go down those rabbit holes and really hyper-focus on that stuff, knowing that is just part of how my brain works, and that's what makes me happy when I can go away and really get lost in a research area and come away and then come to a gig and info dump on my audience about this amazing woman or this pagan goddess or, this, that and the other. Like, my gigs are sort of 50% TED Talk. Like, I love telling people about the stuff I've learned and then singing a song that kind of revolves around that or was sort of inspired by it. So, yeah, I think it has played a part in the musician
when you
I am
spoke
now.
about Janice Ian to me earlier on as well, you mentioned her politics. Are you very political?
I think we have to be. I think as musicians, as folk artists, as songwriters, it's our sort of job to be political. There's so much going on, just in general, broad stroke statement, but there's an awful lot to talk about, an awful lot to write about.
Are you very worried? Are you very concerned about what's going on?
I think it's easy to get worried and concerned, but that's the trap that is set for us and it makes us helpless. I think I'm angry a lot of the time. I think anger is a much more powerful feeling, a much more powerful thing than worry. And so I try and embrace that much more than worry or anxiety around things. I try and be motivated and keep moving and keep talking and keep engaging with people and finding our way. We have so much potential as people to do things about things. And I think it's important to kind of harness that.
Well, you have the most remarkable talent, and thank you for coming into us. It's been such a treat. So it's tomorrow night, Brew. What can people expect by way of the lineup? You have a full lineup.
I do, yeah. I'm really excited. I have so my trio that I've been touring with for most of the last 10 years. Alec Brown is a cellist. He plays cello and he has flute and he tells terrible jokes. And his cello is plugged into a massive pedal board that has all kinds of mad effects on it. Wow. So our songs kind of drift into sort of ambient drone sometimes in places. And then Hannah Nick-Garrett, she's an amazing keys player from Cork, and she is she's just the most stunning accompanist and just a brilliant. And they both sing as well. So we'll have this 3-part harmony thing going on, and the set is a mix of my original stuff from my first 2 albums and a whole bunch of new stuff as well that'll be all going well coming out on an album this year or early next year. And then we have Eve Whelan opening the show for us, and I discovered her online. And she is such a profoundly talented musician. She's a brilliant songwriter. She's the real deal. Like, she doesn't like. I feel like there's an awful lot of young emerging artists that are being steered by trends and being steered by this, that and the other by older people in the industry. And she just seems to have her head on her shoulders. She knows herself and her music is brilliant. And if she can hold on to that forever, she's going to go far. So I'm really excited to hear her live.
Well, I'm sure she's inspired by you and your music as well, Emma. So tomorrow night, and the number for Brew, if you want to book some tickets, it's 062 611 22. I'm almost certain. Yes, it is. 062 611 22. Tickets available from other outlets?
Yeah, brewbaroo.ie.
Yeah.
Or if you want to stand outside, there might be someone in a trench coat. Maybe, I don't know.
Always in Brew.
Yeah. I don't know.
Ronan is going to be so offended by that. Have a wonderful, wonderful time. And
Thank
people
you so
are
much.
in for a real treat, and I would highly recommend the concert. Emma, lovely to see you.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Fran.
much
You
for
too.
coming into us today. Tá nuacht agus an Olsig Chucht.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On, main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie. Tip Today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. slatterysgarage.ie.
Thanks, Pat, and welcome back to the final hour of Tip Today. Now, some reaction to the various pieces we had since the start of the programme. One listener says it's time for this joke of a government to go and put in normal people, whatever that would be, who knows what's happening in our country and not these dictators. Somebody else saying, well said, Kevin, in Nenagh, every word you said is true. Our government and local politicians have failed us. Somebody else saying if we had a few people like Kevin governing this country, we'd be doing well. He's a great talker, but he's a straight man. It says here lots more in that vein as well. Some people, again, taking issue with the whole bid programme that we discussed a couple of days ago in great detail. a carer on to say, Fran, I can no longer take any more price increases in my caring role. I feel now that unless we receive an emergency payment or an increase of my carer's allowance of €270 per week, we are going to go under, says B, and lots more coming into us as well. That's just a taste of it. It's time for our panel, and I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Teresa Collins, who has been regularly contributing to the programme over the years. Brendan Murphy is with us, community activist and peace commissioner, and Dr. Conor Reedy. And Dr. Conor Reedy, of course, is the man behind Tipperary's Hidden Histories and lots of other bits and pieces as well. You're all welcome, and thank you indeed for coming into us today. Are we all well? We're kind of well and happy and
Vitamin D overload with the sun.
I know all about it. RTE Investigates has spent the last year inside the family law court system documenting that unfolding crisis in the care of Ireland's most vulnerable children. Now, the programme aired on Wednesday night. Many people were stunned to see the trauma shared by the young people and found it heartbreaking indeed. Teresa, can I start with you? Did you watch it? And if you did, what did you think?
Fran, I caught up on it yesterday evening now, to be honest, and I was watching it through the adoption part that we have through the mother and baby homes.
Yes.
Look, 64 years on the earth, nothing has changed from the mother and baby homes right up to now. The lack of looking after the vulnerable children that is out there is absolutely unreal. Again, the same with the nursing home and the same with the carers. When they did all the documentaries over the past couple of years, I have a great question, and the question is, they say the fund Tusla. Now, Tusla isn't worth the paper it's written on, and I know that dealing with them over the years. Why don't they have an accountability of the money, where monies is gone? Who is getting it? Because it's not going into the actual care of the young adolescents of this country. And you can see that verbally with the way they were sitting down and talking. It broke my heart, because I thought in 2026 we'd have a better country, a better life shape, a better way forward for our generation that's coming behind us. But when I seen that, we had a great generation when you look at it, but my heart goes out to them, seriously goes out to them. And the government can take the blame, because they're talking about getting in another committee again to go again on another section of it. Forget about the committees. Put one person in ahead of the whole lot, and one person accountability for each part of it, instead of this section for adoption, a section for misbehave. Put it all in one.
And it's not as if the money isn't there, because for these special emergency arrangements, as they're known as, the cost to the state is an average of €250,000 per child per year.
Yes. Where is that €250,000 going if them children are on the streets? That doesn't make sense. I think they need to sit back and take a look at their accounts. And they definitely need to sit back and put better accommodation there for them. Right, families too need to take a hold on this, as well as, they say, the biological families. It needs to be hit on all sections. But definitely in 2026 we should not see our children, that's right, Ireland, on the streets.
But there is a bit of you that is not surprised, really.
Oh, yeah, Look, I fought the mother and baby homes.
You did indeed. Yeah.
And I know the story, and we're still fighting. So, look, that's 25 years down the line since I started. Nothing surprises me. They give a little bit and then they stop, and the next thing, this goes into legislation. It doesn't go into legislation. You'll be still waiting for it to pass through. And you can see what is happening today in it.
Conor, what did you make of it?
We're all taken, I suppose, by a young person, a young chap called Max, who was in the programme and was very much a central feature of the investigation, because I think his story exemplified so much of what was wrong. The system failed Max, and Tusla will have all the arguments possible about resources, and they're under pressure, and they had 106,000 referrals in 25 and so forth, and that may be true. But people failed Max also. The people in Tusla failed Max. And yes, as Teresa quite rightly suggests, families failed Max too. There's a world of people who fail these children. So you have to ask, and I'm looking at this yesterday evening and I'm saying, where's the humanity? Max was moved around 20 times, had no home cooked meal in 6 months. So there's something drastically wrong where somebody working in that system who, yes, they might be pressed to the pin of their collar and they might be under so much pressure, but they have got to be calling, whistleblowing from the inside, or they have to be standing up and saying, do you know what, this is not right. There was another child featured in it, a girl whose face we didn't see. The mother suffered from addiction problems, so went around in a taxi looking for her, but stood back when she identified her. She did the right thing and phoned the guard. And that child was in something called, and I had to write it down, an unregulated care setting, an unregulated care home. I think I'm right.
Yes.
Now, that child then it seems went on to be abused, assaulted, perhaps raped, mistreated.
Is this when she ran away from the SIA?
Yes,
is that
exploited.
Yeah.
So that's a child that was under state care when these things happened. Yeah. Now let's wind back the clock a minute, and we have the campaign that Teresa would have fought, for mother and baby homes, and I worked on the other side of it, the investigation part of it briefly for a year, and all of the other things that we've seen in history, Magdalene's, industrial schools. We have been holding trying to hold organisations and bodies to account for this, religious orders, and so forth, and rightly so. We've been holding them to account, having tribunals, having investigations for years, and trying to get accountability and recompense out of those. For the very kinds of failures that are we talking about now are happening now. Do you know what I mean? So we're still doing this in 2026. We're still allowing this to happen. Why are we allowing it to happen? Is it time to call time on Tusla? We can't put the full blame on them, but I mean, it's clearly a dysfunctional organisation.
Are they being overwhelmed by the kind of numbers that they have to deal with now? Is that?
Oh, I think so. And I mean, political will. There was a judge on it, and I had to write some of this stuff down. Yeah, there was a former children's court judge was on the giving a talking head on it and giving his opinion on some of what he saw, and he was very effective. And he said there must be political will also. And the political will there never seems to be an urgency about any of these things until RTE Investigates comes up. Yeah. Why is RTE Investigates doing all the heavy lifting in this country? Do you know what I mean? In terms of uncovering this stuff time and time again.
It's like with the nursing homes, and it's only when they do that then there's some kind of
What about Oris Attracta? I remember feeling very vulnerable at the time. My late mother had gone into a nursing home. Great nursing home, not going to name it, but great, no problems. But when your loved one goes into a nursing home, you do feel that kind of pinch as to, God, hope everything is okay. And that was around the same time, 10, 12 years ago, that Oris Attracta came out, even more. And, again, it's
you alluded to the judge there. I think you're referencing Dermot Sims, but he presided over family law courts for years, and he told the programme that the care system has only deteriorated further since he tried to raise the alarm about systemic failures 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So a guy of that standing, he brings this up 3 years ago. He says this is a major problem. Not listened to, and in fact now it's worse.
Well, why do unregulated care homes exist in the first place? Like, nursing homes...
There's not enough places.
Yeah, but like, nursing homes are regulated. Yeah. Restaurants are regulated. Farms, schools... This radio show, Fran, is regulated. Sure, if one of us went off the reservation here now and said all sorts of offensive things about different...
God knows you've tried to do some over the time.
Just Brendan is sitting here beside me, just ready like a horse at the start of the race, ready to just unleash on the world, And we're all regulated. If we did do that, and if he did do that and hit on some ethnic groups, you'd be regulated. Sure. You'd be investigated by Commission Naman. Why is this allowed to happen in this day and age where these homes aren't regulated and kids are put into place where there's no accountability?
Brendan, what did you make? Did you get to see it, or did you have to look back on it?
I looked back on it, and I watched the majority of it. It was a very hard watch, to be honest.
Yeah.
And as somebody who was in a children's home in the 90s myself briefly, I can say...
I didn't realise that.
It's already a traumatic experience to be in care without having to be moved from place to place.
Wow.
So, I mean, these kids have been through the mill.
Yeah.
They're probably being taken out of a safe environment put into care, state care, in the hope that that's a safer place from where they're after coming from. But this is not the case. They've been exposed to all sorts of risks.
Yes.
And they're vulnerable kids. So I think it was 1,100 kids, I think last year were put into these SEAs.
Yeah.
That's 1,100 kids that the state has failed, that the government have failed. And you can say, OK, the places aren't there, but this didn't happen overnight. This has been building year on year. So why haven't resources and funding been put into building new facilities?
Answer your own question. Why do you think that is the case?
It's been ignored, and they've used the option of putting these SCAs as an option to put kids into these places which are unregulated. They're not under inspection. So why have inspections?
What they're paying the SEAs, surely that would go a long way to coming up with a proper system.
That should have been put towards building new resources, new facilities.
I mean, what is it, 750,000 per child per year if they're in these?
So, I mean, 1,100 kids last year alone, I mean, you do the maths on that.
So somebody's making a lot of money from
absolutely.
This as well.
It's been squandered. And it's not to the benefit of the children. If the children were safe and that money was going to making sure that their safety, I'd say fine, okay, it's a lot of money, but at least they're safe. But they're not, and that's the problem here. It's a huge problem.
I'm sure you've heard politicians come out, and they've been asked questions about this, particularly on national radio and TV. Are you hearing anything that might lead you to believe that maybe somebody will fix this?
Well, now that there's a spotlight put on it, they're going to have to. But why was it brushed under the carpet for so long and ignored, especially when that judge has raised it 3 years ago? I mean, somebody of good standing like that brought it to their attention and was credible, and to be ignored raises alarm bells with me. Anyway.
When Roderick O'Gorman was the minister, I heard him answering questions about this, and he was pointing to all the extra money they were putting into TUSLA, but not how that money was spent and where these children were going. And of course, some of these kids go missing then as well.
See, the money's been spent wrongly. It's not been spent right. When you're spending 750,000 per child, putting them in, we'll say, an unsecure, unregulated home, I mean, that's a complete waste of the state's money. So, I mean, this needs to be really investigated. They need to look at what they're doing. They're playing catch-up now. This should have been done years ago. We shouldn't be in this situation. How many kids have slipped through the net? And it's going to affect their whole lives. It's not just affecting them right now. This is going to have an effect on their entire lives. And I think, they've really failed thousands and thousands of kids. I'm sure it's been brought to their attention before. If it's been brought to attention 3 years ago, people have been talking about it, but it's been ignored, which isn't good enough.
Yeah, and as the historian amongst us, Conor, I mean, you look back on Dickens and Dickensian times and all of that stuff where kids were mistreated and where kids weren't looked after on the streets and stuff. I mean, we're in 2026, for God's sake.
Yeah, we document that, you see, in history. We document those. We as you say, it's been recreated and reimagined in literature, but it's also well documented in history. And I've written about it myself from the very early 20th century about one outstanding case of child neglect in a tenement in Henrietta Street in Dublin, where the inspectors went in, the aftercare, no, the precursor to the DSPCC. Yes. And they went in and they saw the children, and their hands and faces were gnawed by rats.
My God.
Now, I've got stacks of files with those kind of inspection, reports through the years in those earlier times, and as you say, going back then well into the 19th, 18th centuries. And, we know all about that. We look back on that as a lesser time. We look back at that as a less enlightened time, as a time when we didn't have the breadth of knowledge, the breadth of services, the breadth of just clear thinking in terms of scientific approaches to things and psychological approaches.
But even empathy and humanity.
But that's where I go back to the original thing, Fran, of the young chap Max, where, no home cooked meal in 6 months, moved 20 times. Yeah. Why is there not one person in that organisation, albeit one overworked person, I get it, we all get it, who's is not standing up and saying, come here.
Yes,
this
of course,
is
yeah.
Not
and
right.
of course, Teresa, we look to the proclamation, and the famous line about cherishing all of the children equally.
Yeah.
We certainly haven't been doing that, have we?
Far from it, Fran.
Yeah.
Far, far from it. And I'd say myself, when you look back on it, I think human society over the years hasn't been fared.
Yeah.
To be honest. Now, speaking of that, there was a beautiful documentary there on the television. It was raised by the villagers, where the kids came out of Dublin and they came down to country. I was thinking, being involved with voluntary groups, I mean, if they had a right sense there, say 15, 16-year-olds maybe getting in trouble, right, there's bound to be Tidy Towns groups, there's bound to be voluntary groups with Meals on Wheels and the whole lot. Wouldn't it be lovely if Tusla took the time maybe to get that child in to do something?
Oh, lovely idea. Raised by the village.
Raised by the village.
It's lovely,
But let Tusla take the effort to get that child that has that bit of trouble. Right, we'll get you in somewhere. We'll see how you get on. And work with the community groups as well as a placement for them to live. Because there's no use having a placement and be bored stiff.
Yeah. That's the kind of vision you think is needed.
You need. And I mean, wouldn't that be something? And it gives a young child at 16 something he might like to do, gardening, he might like to do carpentry, but it's the older training the younger. And I think, that'd be a nice way to go and use the voluntary organisations
and 750,000 per child per year would go a long way in a local community as well, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it,
be? Yeah, absolutely. Senator Eileen Flynn, then, she made headlines, of course, after she said she would not attend any protest where the Irish flag was being flown because it had become a symbol exploited by members of the far right who sought to hijack the fuel protests as she saw it last week. Now, she got such a huge backlash to this, and a lot of hate and a lot of abuse, and one thing and another. Brendan, what did you make of it? Let's leave the abuse aside from. What did you make of what she said?
I think it was wrong to associate the Irish flag with protests and far right movement. I think, I'm proud of the Irish flag. We just walk past it when I park my car at the courthouse. There's an Irish flag flying. If you were to symbolise that with protests and with far-right movement, it would be very, very wrong. Like, at all protests, you're going to have a percentage of people who will try and use it for their own agenda. And that's always been the case. But I think the Irish flag, I suppose, to suggest that it is a symbol for this, I think she was totally wrong on that one. And the backlash suggests that too, that I'm not the only one that thinks it. And I'm by no means far-right, but I mean, I'm proud of the Irish flag. I mean, it's a symbol of our country. And it's how you look at it, I suppose. That's how I view it.
Now, she did get a huge amount of backlash. And just for people who mightn't be sure, she comes from the background as a traveller. She's in the Shannon as part of one of the Taoiseach's choices, as far as I remember, on that. There was a lot of abuse, though. There was a lot of hatred, in terms of what appeared online, Brendan.
There was, and a lot of it was over the top as well. I think looking back, she'll probably regret her choice of words around it. And look, you do see protests, and you see the Irish flags and that, but you see them at all sorts of events and different things. So I wouldn't symbolise it in the context she put it.
What did you make of some of the travelling community coming out and distancing themselves from what she had to say?
I suppose they weren't going to support what she said, and that's why they were, I suppose, distancing themselves. I think was it John Connors was one that in particular that came out. So I can see where they were coming from, because they didn't want to, I suppose, didn't want people thinking that was their view on it as well.
Yeah, she went on to say, they don't stand for the Ireland we fought for 100 years ago. We're still fighting today, said the senator. She said, I will not stand by when our flag is being used to promote hatred, division and anti-migrant remarks. For me, the flag means peace, unity, justice and equality. What did you make of it all, Conor?
I largely disagree with what she says, but there's 2 points I really have on it, because I it's not that I see where she's coming from. First of all, I will defend till my dying breath her right to say what she says, because we do live in we can't, on the one hand, campaign for free speech and demand free speech. So there is that. So this is just by way of observation. I was part, as you know, of the Midwest Hospital campaign. I'm speaking now as Conor and as not as the Midwest Hospital campaign.
Yeah.
At one point, we had 11,000 people on the streets in Limerick. 11,000. And not a tricolour in sight. Now, this is all by way of just observation.
Was that by choice, or was that just the way it happened to be?
It just happened to be, I think. Okay. We did have the red flag, a red flag as a kind of a symbol, the colour red as our symbol, I suppose.
Sure.
No tricolour in sight. Nobody questioned our patriotism because there were no because there were no flags there. Nobody questioned whether we loved our country or whether we cared about our community. So I suppose I'm asking, why did tricolour suddenly flood a different protest, the fuel protest, and they didn't flood an 11,000 strong protest in Limerick for better healthcare? Now, that's just a question. I don't have an answer.
Right, it's an observation.
It is.
Is it? Okay.
So what work is the flag doing there at one protest that it wasn't doing that it doesn't do at every other legitimate protest? It's not. It's a serious question, because when the national symbol starts appearing selectively, it's worth asking who's deploying it and why. Now, there's what I find most revealing, I think, about the whole episode is Senator Eileen Flynn expressed a personal opinion, and it's one you might agree with, and it's one that clearly a lot of people don't agree with. A legitimate response would be to do as Brendan just did and argue the point. Okay? Instead, online she was called a rodent. She was called a traitor. I've looked this up. She was subjected to the worst misogynistic language you could think of. The C word was mentioned multiple times. And I'd say this to anybody defending that behaviour. The moment you resort to that, you have lost the argument entirely.
She was illiterate, she was a ignoramus.
All of this, it used her traveller ethnicity, but they haven't silenced her. They've proven her point. That's the way I look at it. Because if your politics requires that level of abuse to sustain itself, then it isn't a political position, it's a threat.
It's interesting, and everybody knows the senator's name now.
Yes.
And she's up there, and she could well be a voice for her own.
Of course, and let's hope she will be. Because
whether you agree or disagree, is that what you mean?
The point is, when we resort to that, and I'm not being goody two shoes or say we can't have strong and tough arguments. But when you get into calling people those things, and when you get into that name calling, you're playing the person, not the ball. But argue the point all day long. I challenge anyone to argue the point without getting into that kind of horrible, vicious name calling. I've had it done to me, which is why I'm very, very quickly pulling away from social media.
Teresa, your background is Republican, so I'd love your view on this.
Well, number one, I do not agree with the way she was treated. Now, that's been honest, because no person deserves that. It is her view, and everyone has a different view. I went out with my flag because I'm Irish and because I was representing a normal person, nothing to do with haulage, nothing to do with tractors.
You brought your flag with you, did you, to the protest?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
can I ask you why, Teresa? What point were you making by having the
that I'm Irish and we're going through what our country is going through and what it is to survive. It's nothing to do with a political side. It was me as Irish.
Yes.
That's the way it was. And it was just to say I'm suffering as much as what they are between paying household bills and say, this is Ireland. Would you please take a look and see what your country is needed?
Right.
And I mean, it was to me a message to the government. Say, listen to us as people.
Right. So you obviously, and according to Senator Flynn, you're not a far right person.
No.
You weren't out there promoting far right ideology, whatever that might be.
No.
But the flag was personal to you.
It was personal to me as an Irish person who's trying to survive in a country that I haven't got a chance at times. It's hard to live, it's hard to pay the bills, and I'm doing my best. But I was out there as me, with my flag, as Irish, to represent me. Nothing to do with political.
Right. But as you said, the abuse that was,
Look, she did get an awful abuse. I've seen some of it. She has a right to speak her mind too. As you say, we live in a democracy. We're all entitled to our opinions.
Yeah.
I actually think, in one sense, she was courageous enough to speak her mind.
Big time.
And yet, at the same time, I feel my heart goes out to her because people didn't get her in the right way I think she meant it.
Do you think that she understood that she was going, and I don't mean that to be patronising, but do you think that she understood that she was going to get such a huge backlash, Brendan?
I don't think so. I don't think she anticipated the backlash she was going to get. And I think, like I said earlier, thinking back, I think she probably would have phrased it differently.
Yeah.
You know,
do you think so?
I think so. I definitely think so.
Yeah, but she responded to some of it, and she wasn't returning. She said, as an Irish traveller, she said that her accent, her pronunciation, her vocabulary are mocked by the racists online, but she wasn't going to change who she is.
I think she diverted to that side of it rather than the flag. It changed course, I think, really, and I seen that as the week unfolded.
Right.
She made it more about that than actually what she said.
Right. And do you think that was deliberate?
I think
took
so.
It away from
yeah. No,
right.
that's just my opinion. But I
All
think
right.
it was a diversion.
Pat is staying with us. It's 11:30. We'll take a break. We're back with more in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie. Tipp Today, in association with Slattery's of Puckon, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. slatterysgarage.ie.
And you're very welcome back to our panel, and we're live from Nenagh today, by the way, as well. Dr. Conor Reedy is with us, Brendan Murphy and Teresa Collins as well. And speaking of Conor Reedy, it says here, could Conor answer his own question, please, and say why they didn't have a tricolour at his protest? Was there protest not here in Ireland? Well, it was in Limerick. Why did you?
Was the person listening? I said it's a rhetorical question.
Don't be getting annoyed with.
I am annoyed. I am, because people. This is a famous thing. Sorry, I was lectured long enough to know that students don't listen either. If the person, I said I was putting it out as an observation.
All right, okay, but
yes.
but answer the question though. Why was there a deliberate policy about not having
no,
the flag there?
God,
no, it wasn't.
At all.
So you didn't sit down and decide
directive.
we're not going to have the tricolour.
We didn't have the time. We were amateur campaigners trying to get the A&Es reopened. Seriously.
I'm not sure about the amateur bit. So, somebody else saying, but these are only words, hurty words, no matter how awful they read. The nation is on the brink, and it says then Miss Flynn is hard left activist there, and lots more coming in on that. Some of it we can't touch or mention, but there you go. The GRA, the Garda Representative Association, held their annual conference this week, and the staff body strongly criticised senior officers over the practice of suspending frontline Gardaí, often for years when allegations of wrongdoing are made against them. Lots of other stuff emerged from that. But funnily enough, when we were speaking to Richie Kennedy, the Tipperary rep for the GRA, the other day, we got a lot of angry stuff in about the Gardaí and people not happy with the part they played in the protest. Teresa, can I go to you first of all on this? What did you make of the Gardaí?
You're going to love me on this one, Fran.
Why
Absolutely.
is that, Teresa?
I was totally against bringing in the Gardaí.
Yes.
For the very simple reason, there was 5 days of peaceful protesting. They were in negotiations talking, and if they had to hold out for the 3 days, I think there might have been a more peaceful answer to the end of it. Now, the government is after putting the Garda in an awful situation because it's turned ordinary people against the Garda.
Do you believe that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do, and I'm going to be quite honest in that. I have even commented online as to why they didn't hold out when talks was going on, the negotiations was going on. That is the usual thing. You hold out when negotiations is going on till after everything is sorted. I think they did wrong bringing in the guards the way they did. The guards themselves felt it, I'll be honest. They're after getting a backlash from everybody, including myself, and I'll be honest, I've said it too, that was the wrong thing to do, to put one against the other.
But they were following orders, is that?
Yes, they were following orders.
Now, I'm saying that, and I know I'm going to get a backlash for saying that, but it's my job to put the alternative argument to you. They were simply following orders.
If they had to wait out 48 hours for them orders,
okay,
I think you wouldn't have had what you had.
So was Jim O'Callaghan to blame here?
Well, he was, I think, bringing them in on a Friday, and it was solved on a Sunday when they all got together and talked.
Now, they would argue with you that if they didn't do something about what was happening in Whitegate and in the other fuel depots, we'd all be without fuel for our cars and the whole country would line to.
Well, Fran, I know for a fact, and I was talking to one lorry driver below in Fines, and they were letting 5 tankers in each day in Fines to get out for the emergency vehicles. I know that for a fact. So I can guarantee that with my heart on that. And that's why I'm saying there was no emergency vehicles as such left without fuel.
Yes.
So it was. Right, I know the normal consumer mightn't have had it and a whole lot.
Right.
But oddly enough, when you see a sign up, and it was showed on a video in Kildare, no fuel here, but yet the Gardaí car could come up and the fuel was into it.
Right.
So I think the garages were told, now this is only mine,
right.
I think the garages were told to put up no fuel signs, but yet you can see it.
But you can see why maybe they might hold back something for the emergency services
100%.
and the like. Strictly where the Gardaí are concerned, because we spoke about the protest last week, but the Gardaí, the GRA, where they are now, public opinion about them and stuff, how do you feel
I think they've taken a hit. And, ironically, for Gardaí at ground level, at the coalface, as they say, it's probably not their own fault that they've taken a hit, because for most of us, they are the thin blue line. I've said that on this show many times. They're who we'll call in a time of crisis. They're like every organisation in the country. I think they're open and up for criticism or evaluation, and I think we should all be able to do that, but they're the ones we'll call. However, I do think that their commanders, their political masters and mistresses and their higher-ups did them no favours in, I agree with Teresa, in not holding out. From what I could see, and I wasn't obviously part of it, and none of us were there everywhere where a guard was interacting with the protesters, but they seemed to hold off very well in the early days of the protest. There seemed to be a lot of cooperation from what I could see, actually. A bit of banter.
Yeah.
That's really how it's done.
And it seemed to be Whitegate was
the thing. And that should be how policing is done in this country. And I think the guards on the ground would like that for themselves. But I think they were done no favours by Jim O'Callaghan and the Garda Commissioner and others. Jim O'Callaghan's stock has definitely taken a hit in all of this, I think. In his
even his leadership
for now. So that's why they're parking Micheál Martin for the rest of the year now with Europe, and Jim O'Callaghan will hope we all forget about, or well, Fianna Fáil will forget about the bad couple of weeks he had there on the protest and how he was maybe misusing the threat of the army.
What about where the Gardaí are now? As I say, loads emerging from the meeting of the Gardaí. Brendan, what did you make of what you've heard about it?
This reminds me of a film back in the 90s. This is a bit extreme now. A Few Good Men.
Good men, Brendan.
Where the two officers are on trial for following a code red given by Jack Nicholson, who was their colonel at the time.
Yes.
And they couldn't understand why they're being prosecuted, and because they were following orders. And in this case, Jack Nicholson is Jim O'Callaghan. Kept the order, and the police are on trial, or the Gardaí are on trial. But I suppose at the end of the day, when they sign up to be a guard, they have to follow orders. They can't. And a lot of guards would sympathise with the protesters and could relate to them, because when they go home, they're putting fuel in their car, they're putting heat and oil in their tank. They're exposed to the same expenses we are. So, but it's their job to go and do what they're doing. Right. But I think it was the wrong call to bring them in. And what happened, because it was peaceful and there was negotiations occurring. So I think it was definitely the wrong call to bring them in.
When you hear that the Gardaí, that they're afraid to do their job because of suspension and because of all sorts of, they have issues now with chasing criminals, for example. What about the guy who loaned the bike to the old...
that poor man.
There's a lot of nonsense going on.
There is, and it's turning people off joining the guards, because there's no respect for guards anymore either, and I know that works both ways, but I think it's a tough job now. I mean, if you walk down the street now and you tell somebody to pick up litter, whatever you're telling them to do as a guard, you're being recorded. I mean, everything is under Big Brother now and under investigation, and it's they can't do their jobs properly, and I suppose it's causing frustration, especially when they're chasing criminals, and like what happened with the other guard. It's I don't know. It's
but you can understand why they're finding it so hard to fill
Absolutely.
Temple more. I mean, who would want to be a guard nowadays, I
Absolutely.
suppose. All right, we're going to take another break. We'll be back with our panel. But before that, can I just do a bit of housekeeping, because I know I'll forget it. The tickets to Emma Longford, who performed so beautifully for us earlier on, tomorrow night in Brew, of course. The tickets going to John O'Gorman at Parstown in Clonmel. Well done to you, John. The Michael English tickets that we were giving away earlier on going to Margaret Bevins of Shinron. So well done to you all. We'll be back with our panel in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie. Tip Today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. slatterysgarage.ie.
And you're very welcome back to our Friday panel. And Conor and Brendan and Teresa still with us. The National Archives of Ireland recorded over 20 million hits to its website following the release of the first census of the Irish Free State in 1926 over the weekend. The 26 individual census returns have been made searchable online for the first time, with the data detailing ages and occupations and religions and genders of citizens as well. One stark comparison in the census was how agriculture dominated the labour market in 1926, making up 51% of the entire workforce. But by 2022, this had fallen to 4%. Now, it ties in with conversations we had on the show this week surrounding issues facing farmers across Tipperary. It's important to stay in touch with our past, or is it? Conor, history being your thing, the census, have you delved into the data?
I'm very proud to announce that the Reedies of Rosemount, Carrickatoher in 1926 had a servant.
Why am I not so? I knew there was a posh side.
Can I just put that out there, please?
So you've had a look.
I've had a look.
Wow.
My own father missed it by 2 years. He wasn't born yet, and my Auntie Peg wasn't born yet either. They were the two youngest in the family. So, but you know, the beautiful, unique thing about this census is that there are people in it who I did know. They're gone now, but you know, uncles and aunties and stuff. Yeah. This is the first time most of us are looking at a census where we know the people in it, and that's quite or we have known them, you know. Yes.
And somebody into research like you are, is it searchable? Is it easy to access? Is it what?
It is, but you have to dig down. So I had this conversation with somebody yesterday evening, actually, who you know wasn't digging as far as they knew they were able to. So you do have your household records, then you have your immediate census with the names of the people listed and their occupation and their ages, and it'll be interesting to see how certain people who were alive in the 1911 census aged by 1926, because sometimes there was a little bit of lying about their ages there for different reasons.
Yeah. To get the pension.
To get the pension and all the rest. So it is searchable. It could be more searchable, I suppose, in that the search features haven't advanced from the way they are for 1911 or 1901. So I'd like to have seen the database be a little bit stronger in that. Look, I'm a historian, but I'm a historian largely of crime and punishment, I suppose. That's been my beat for all the years and my profession. And in that vein, it's an extraordinary resource. Institutional history was my thing. And for the first time, we can see in black and white in 1926 the full institutional landscape of the new Irish state.
Right, so a great resource.
So it's a great resource
for authors.
Prisons, reformatories, industrial schools, Magdalen laundries, they're all in there. The county homes, which were the precursor to the mother and baby homes. So these weren't hidden. These people were counted, which is just wonderful to be able to say. They were part of the machinery of the state from day one, and this is kind of like a profoundly important thing to be able to demonstrate. But when we look at the census and we talk about, say, the agriculture you brought up at the start, what moves me most about the census is that behind every statistic is a person, and the bones of their life story are kind of told in some small way in the census. So, like in my previous research, in archival research, I've encountered people who spent their entire lives in institutions, as I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And courts usually is how I found them. And the 1926 census potentially allows us to trace those lives in ways that we couldn't
which is
before.
so important. I'm thinking with your background with the mother and baby homes, Teresa, what does it mean for somebody like you?
It means a lot.
Does it? Yeah.
It does. Well, I suppose I'm Irish. I have a lot of my own family history going back to line. But anyone that was adopted out, say America, Canada, and didn't have too much of a history, it's lovely to have it that they can now come back and get their genealogy side to their family.
Right.
And believe it or not, it means a lot to a person to know your genealogy and to know your history. For not just for me, but for my own grandchildren coming up along the line and to have the history there. I mean, when you don't know it fully and you go into it, it is so fascinating and so reliable, as the saying is.
Had you been into that previously? I mean, were you interested in genealogy?
I always went back on my family's genealogy, and I'd often spend time in both Monsey and Killaduna going through the headstones and going back on the family and where they originally came into or out the home place.
Yes.
I loved it because it was just something I liked doing.
I haven't had a look yet. Is it easy to access?
I haven't had a look now at the one Conor has.
Yes.
But I know from doing previous, say, from my ancestry or any of the rest of them, it is so helpful to people that does want to get back.
Brendan, are you interested in genealogy and all of that?
It's not something I had a big interest in, to be honest, until the weekend. A cousin of mine, I mentioned, John Minogue, sent me a screenshot of, we'd share the same great-grandmother, and my grandmother would have been on that list as well. My great-grandmother married twice, her first husband died, so there was two parts of the family. So then I got interested and I got intrigued, and I started going on the site and having a look, and it was fascinating, the information that was there. But before that, I thought, sure, what's the point? But when he sent me that on and he was fascinated with it, I said, God, this is great. And then I went on and had a look, and I found it fascinating because, you know, a lot of our family grew up in Ormond Street here in Nenagh, and you could go through the households, and it was great to trace it back.
But you do go down a rabbit hole with it.
Absolutely, yeah. I didn't think I would have an interest in it until he sent me on that link, so that sparked. So thanks, John, for that.
It's good.
I think that's part of us as we go older as well, to know our heritage. And a lot of it, as I say, in the last 15 years, finding out my own, it was what drove me to do it. And then it was lovely to help someone else to do it as well.
Of course, yeah. And when I mentioned the agriculture there, it certainly illustrates a changed Ireland over those 20 years. I mean, doesn't it? Or 100 years, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, you see, we also had in the, say, up to 1926, well, prior to independence, say from the 1880s onwards, late 1870s, into the 1880s, 90s onwards, land acts changed the face of agriculture in Ireland, and the landed estates gradually gave way to small holdings, to where Irish people began to own their own land for the first time since maybe the 1600s, and owned the land that they farmed, that was always farmed. So, but then you had a whole changing economic landscape, that had come about as a result of that. But then after 1922, when Ireland was sort of on its own, economically having to do its own thing, again, you have all sorts of demographic changes, movement of people, mobility, everything. It's just a time of immense change.
And as a historian, I mean, you must really be very disappointed at the destruction of so much of the data over the years as well.
The stories I'd have been able to tell in hidden history had the like
was that the burning of the forecourts?
The burning of the forecourts.
Was that largely what destroyed?
Yes, it was, and most people don't realise that we have very little documented medieval history of Ireland compared to other countries.
That was all stored.
And that was all stored there in the Public Records Office, which was part of the Forecourts building. And as I would often, be in the National Archives and I'd look for something, and like they have even for the 19th century, they still have very limited stuff. They have millions of papers, documents, but they're still limited to what they could be. And like the person bringing out the file to you when you order your file file would say, no, that went down the Liffey in 1922. That's not there anymore. That's kind of because it's a
great
it's heartbreaking.
Indeed, yeah. A couple of other headline figures. The life expectancy has changed from 57 for men, 58 for women in 1926 to 81 for men and 84 for women in 2022. So there's some good news in this, isn't there, Brendan?
I think so. I have a bit of a road ahead of me, so really, yeah.
I'm near enough on the hill on the other side.
and funny enough, the other one that interested me, 1926, Roman Catholics accounted for 93% of the population compared to 69% in 2022. So there you go. That's it from us for today. Thanks. A wonderful panel. I got a great giggle out of it. Thank you very much indeed to Teresa, to Connor and to Brendan. That's it for me. Leanne produced. Just before we go, Councillor Shamie Morris was on, and he wants to thank the people working in Tusla, mostly women. He wants to highlight the huge workload that they're facing. He said the government needs to step up and bring in more services. They brought in people during the war that are so traumatised at this stage. So there you go. That's it. As I say, we'll talk to you on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Bye-bye now.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.